Hey everyone, Bank of Bricks here. After a long wait, Starfield has finally been released. The latest game from Bethesda Studios is all about space exploration. And to explore space, you of course need a spaceship. So, in this video, I figured I'd try and recreate some of the most iconic ships from LEGO's many space themes, using Starfield's excellent ship builder. This video will show nothing from the game aside from what ship parts are available, so you don't have to worry about any spoilers from the story. Let's get right into it, with the classic Blacktron Renegade. I love this ship's asymmetrical design. The unconventional shape is what made me choose this Blacktron ship. It really stands out from a lot of LEGO's other space designs. Here's my Starfield Renegade recreation. I did my best to incorporate the original set's colors. Starfield doesn't offer any transparent options, so the original set's trans yellow has been replaced by a bright yellow. I didn't want the few trans red pieces to overpower the ship's palette, so I used it sparingly, using weapon mount ship parts. Now let us enter the ship's interior. First thing seen upon entering the ship would be a storage area, an important part of ship design that LEGO leaves out of most of their sets in order to have more sleek designs. Heading up, we would of course have an onboard armory. Blacktron's illegal activities often require proper firepower, and it's good to keep organized and repaired before any unlawful outings. The next scene section would be a computer operations center. Perhaps this is where the ship's cloaking is managed. Or maybe this is an onboard communications center. The Renegade is the largest ship in the original Blacktron fleet. The final hab is a barracks, another often excluded component. It is integral to keep your rowdy raiders rested. And now we head to the cockpit and prepare for takeoff. I'm a big fan of this ship's silhouette, especially from the back when flying in third person. Landing back down, let's move towards a more scientific theme. Ice Planet has one of my favorite aesthetics in all of LEGO's space lines. The white, blue, and black all look amazing, especially when paired with the theme's signature trans orange. The specific ship I'm tackling is the flagship Deep Freeze Defender. I love the angular shape of this ship, and its unique twin cockpits. Starfield unfortunately only lets you have one, so I've had to cheat somewhat by using a similar shaped ship part. My design is more chunky than the original set, but I've done this to include interior features that I feel the ship should reasonably have. If you want my in-universe explanation, I feel it makes sense for this ship to be more brick-like, as it's not meant for combat or escape. It's a science and exploration vehicle, and given how Starfield is meant to fit the NASA punk vibe, I think a ship more along the lines of Earth's Arctic vehicles fits, especially since I imagine this ship is used primarily in atmosphere on the ice planet of Cristo. Unfortunately, Starfield lacks any decals, so I've added the ship's primary print by using a shield generator. Entering the ship, of course the first module seen is a research lab. The primary function of the ship is science, so you're able to get right down to business as soon as you enter. Heading up would be a sleeping area for the ship's crew. I imagine the Deep Freeze Defender would spend a decent amount of time away from its home base in order to explore, so it would need a sizable area for some R&R. Alongside this would be some storage for the crew's tools. Unfortunately, I'm unable to recreate the theme's iconic orange chainsaws in any way. Heading into the cockpit, it's time for takeoff. Perhaps in this version of the ship, half of it is robot controlled, hence why we can't access the other cabin. The ship's empty section in the back keeps the Deep Freeze Defender from being a complete flying shoebox. Let's continue on to what is probably the most iconic LEGO ship, the Galaxy Explorer, specifically the largest model included in the set's remake. This is just about the perfect LEGO ship. Its exterior is flawless and doesn't sacrifice any interior details, which made my job of interior designing a lot easier. The design for the ship I've come up with is doing its best to keep the angular and sharp design of the original. The only real sacrifice I've had to make is moving the ship's engines onto the back wing, which I don't believe to be a real big issue. Once again, only one cabin is allowed, but I believe this was less of an issue for this ship, as I've been able to convey the back lab area pretty well. The entrance to the ship is on the back to mimic the set's ramp feature. Once entering, you are met with an engineering section, basically the heart of the ship, and just about the one thing missing from the set's original design. but I wouldn't call that a flaw. Heading up, we are met with the ship's infirmary, and I'm really glad that I've been able to include the 2 beds, just like the actual set has in this area. Just before the cabin is a little section for planning and sitting. I think the classic Space Federation would make it so the ship isn't built entirely for business. And finally, the cabin itself has more room that is even in the set. It's once again time to launch. Flying this ship is fun because it feels really big. It's like it's meant to be in space. Now landing to discuss one of LEGO's most interesting ships and themes. The Sonic Stinger from Insectoids. This theme seems aliens disguise their ships in order to blend in with giant bugs. The Sonic Stinger itself looks like a giant fly. Its trans neon green and blue color scheme is one of my favorites that LEGO has ever done. I've done my best to replicate the ship's eyes with 2 fuel tank parts, and the antenna of the ship is recreated pretty perfectly with this ship part. The angular wings of the original set were simple to design, however, I only wish there was a way to angle them up. Lastly, for the exterior, these landing gear are the best in terms of replicating the organic-like legs of the original set. Moving on to the ship's interior, we find it very cramped and tiny, being a few sets of ladders and corridors before reaching the front. The only place of note being an engineering room. The simple layout and claustrophobic feel help both with the in-world idea and allows the design of the ship to not be overly bloated. Let's move on to the takeoff and see this ship in flight. The small frame of this ship really makes you feel like an insect, only able to pester your enemies. Now it's time to ground one final time to talk about the 1st Space Police's squadron leader, the Mission Commander. This ship feels important and is perfect for tracking down Blacktron baddies. I've kept the other trans-red window-like structures on the ship's interior, along with the radar dish placed perfectly on the ship's back. Once again, Starfield's small parts are limited, so I've only been able to include a few of these red parts, which are meant to represent the Space Police's printed tiles. It's time to enter the ship. We're first faced with an area for off-duty officers to relax and gear up before going on patrol. Heading up, we can see a section for the police captain to sleep and write all his paperwork for the day's disasters. Moving back down, we pass the armory, perfect for keeping non-lethal equipment, and even having this jail cell area reminiscent of the laser-barred cells in the original set. This ship's front compartment is simple, having only 3 seats. Once again, blasting off into space. I like the profile of this ship when in flight. It's not too big and feels perfect for galactic pursuits. Speaking of which, this ship is equipped with all the weapons needed to take on any spacefaring suspects. I had a lot of fun converting these ships into Starfield, and I'm having so much fun in the game itself. I haven't even touched the settlement building yet, and I'll imagine I'll be putting a couple dozen hours into that. If you want to see me make more ships, let me know. Also tell me which ones you'd like to see. I think I might do the reverse of this video, converting some of Starfield's own ships and my personal ships into LEGO. I hope you've enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and if you want to see even more LEGO content in the future, subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much for 700 subscribers. I'll see you next time.